Welcome to the Chief of Cybersecurity podcast, where we discuss relevant information concerning the cybersecurity workforce, business development, and best practices, made possible by CMIS. Learn more at cmis.net. And for a list of authorized publications, visit DewayneHart.com. And now, here's your host, Dewayne Hart.
Welcome back again. Welcome back to the Chief of Cybersecurity podcast session. There's some great information that I have for you today. And as always, if you have not purchased your copy of the Cybersecurity Mindset, do so. Become a part of the audience of great people that are learning how to build cybersecurity. You know, about a couple of weeks ago, I was approached by someone, and the person stated that, hey, you know, I really enjoy your book, and said that I definitely want to know how to get the most out of the book. And I looked at the person and told them, I said that when you read the Cybersecurity Mindset, I want you to think about things that go on in your job and some of the ways that you approach cybersecurity, but also, too, how you can improve, cybersecurity. But then I kind of transitioned over and started to talk about the workforce. And so we had a very long discussion about workforce development. And speaking of workforce development, that's what this current series is focusing on. What I had done in the previous podcast was to talk about how you could land that award-winning or that dream cybersecurity job. So I want you to imagine now that you have been employed and you're working on your job, and you went through the interview process and your resume was outstanding. And now it's your first day on the job. So this is where you earn your paycheck. But one of the ways to earn your paycheck is that you have to grow your skill sets. So when we talk about skill sets, it's a learning process. It is trying to identify in the cybersecurity industry the things that you can learn in order to be effective, the things that you can learn so that your value proposition can be great for your company. And also, too, the things that you can learn so that you can become that cybersecurity guru. Because we all have that little energy inside of us to learn, but a lot of times, we have to get motivated. So what I'm going to do on this podcast session is to motivate you. I'm going to motivate you in a way that you are going to learn the secrets to mastering effective cybersecurity skills, which is the topic of this discussion today. So I want you to go back, and as I had previously said, this is your first day on the job. Now it's time to build your cybersecurity skills because you don't want to become pigeonholed, right? So when you pigeonholed, so what happened is that you're pushed into a corner, and the only thing you do is paperwork because you're the new person on the block. I've seen people that walk into the cybersecurity industry for the first day and get lost because they don't understand that a lot of times people are not going to drag you by the hand. And you have organizations that hire new people, but then they lose track of new people and end up destroying their careers because they don't have a chance to grow their skill sets. And these are well-to-do people, very smart individuals. What I remember most about when someone comes on board new is that you have a 2 weeks window to really capture their attention or they will lose interest. And I learned that in the military, as new people would gain orders and come to a ship, you have 2 weeks to keep their interest because they've been told to do the best. They want to get up every morning and pretty much they want to do their job. But in 2 weeks, if you have not captured them, it could destroy their career. So I want my seasoned professionals and executive personnel that are working in upper level management to really think about this. Your job is to help build cybersecurity skills. That is your job. Now, for regular individuals that are entering the industry, Here are some of the things you need to think about when it comes to mastering your cybersecurity skills. One is job choice. See, when you are hired, one of the things that should have been done is to look at the job choice. Because when you look at the job, how well can you progress? As I said before, that you don't want to get pushed in a corner and the only thing you become is a paper secretary, because you want to be involved. And as I go through some of the key things you can do to make yourself effective and the things that you can do to become that cybersecurity guru, I want you to take some notes. So job choice is very important, because job choice means that you have selected a role that fits you and that you have passion about, and you want to do the work. The next stage is being proactive. Proactive means that when you come onto a job, you just don't sit back and wait for someone to give you something. You ask questions and you get involved and you become part of the teams and you take notes when you're on these meetings. But part of being proactive is to ask questions too. And when you start to ask questions, that's when you start to learn. So learning. Part of learning is that you have to pick up the fundamentals. There's a fundamentals aspect of cybersecurity, from networking to system admin to learning things such as log analysis. Most entry-level people would probably end up in a SOC environment. And a SOC environment gives you the opportunity to learn all of those skills, because in a SOC environment, you just focus on tools. There's so many different cybersecurity tools on the market, from Exonius to Tenable to Splunk, CrowdStrike, just to name a few. So when you come on to a job, your initial engagements is to gain the fundamentals. And as I go through this talking session here, and as you take your notes, because I know you're taking notes, is that you're going to find out that there are some things that you do on your job now that you are very effective at it. Then there are some things that you probably need to polish up a little bit, because you are good at what you do. You just need to improve just a little bit. All right. Now, one of the things that I've learned over time is that through a career development pipeline, there's something called an individual development plan. What that plan does is give you a structure so that you can identify the skill sets that it takes to get to the next level. Let's just say, for instance, if you work in a SOC environment, and now your interest is to be maybe on the infrastructure team that is responsible for AWS. Well, there are some skill sets that you need to migrate or to transition over to AWS, for cloud. Because if you have the fundamental skill sets of networking and sysadmin and have captured some knowledge on cybersecurity that's very important, it's going to help you do that transition over to AWS. But part of your transition over to AWS is that there are certain certifications that you have to get. So let's talk for a minute, because certification seems to be a part of every talk that we have when it comes to the workforce. When you want to look at your certification, you really want to be very careful and not just to take time out to get a certification because you think it's pretty. What you really want to do is to see the worth of that certification. What type of skills can you get out of that certification? If you're working in a SOC environment, most of the time you're going to be taking some SAN certification, which is on incident handling. Or if you roll into a role on system admin, then you're going to be taking some Microsoft certs. When it comes to certs and actually getting those skills, one of the things that I found out is that when you go through something like the CISSP training, you seem to get a multitude of different skill sets, because it takes cybersecurity and it builds the roadmap, and it also shows you the puzzle of how cybersecurity operates. So if you decide to take a certification such as the CISSP, it's going to give you the groundwork to understand how cybersecurity is well connected together. Some of the other things is that if you are new, and let's say, for instance, you take the Security Plus, well, you're going to learn the basic of IT security. You learn things such as what is the formula to actually make up risk, your threats times your vulnerabilities, looking at the CIA triad and seeing how that focuses into the overall arching of cybersecurity as well. But speaking of the certifications, is that there are skill sets that you get out of those certifications. So you have to identify which certification that actually fits you, and then go and start to do your study and to move in learning. Cyber tools are very important. Here's a way that you can master your skill sets here, because as I said before, majority of the time in the world of cybersecurity, you will be engaged in tools, and you have to learn tools. So if you can learn maybe 3 tools and be effective with those 3 tools, you will make yourself marketable. So I can't say which tools are the best, but I can tell you from my background what tools are mostly used throughout every organization. I've seen Splunk at mostly every organization. I've seen SCCM. I've seen Wireshark, right? I've seen some type of vulnerability scanning tool. May it be Qualys, may it be Rapid7. I'm seeing a lot of people using Tenable products, from Tenable SC to Tenable IO. Some of the other tools that you have out there too, when it comes to your SOC environment, can actually deal with networking, something like Nmap. But the main tools that you really want to learn is the login tools and your SIEMs and your vulnerability management tools. If you can pick 3 out of that stack and learn them well, you can increase your skill sets. One of the other options too is that you can shadow someone. So I want you to think about somebody that works in your company that is very open to helping you grow and to help you develop your skill sets. This is a person that you can walk to and ask a question, and they can provide some type of informal training to you. So here's the definition of informal training. It means that you have gathered training outside of the classroom. It can be by literally of just walking down the hall, and as you walk down the hall, someone stops you, and then you two start to have a conversation about certain areas of cybersecurity, and that becomes training for you, and that's the informal method. Now, the formal method is that when you put in a classroom and you have to sit in a classroom and you got to listen to an instructor for 8 hours a day. So you really, really have to learn. Shadowing someone is very important. And I also want to state that when it comes to the cybersecurity skills, when it comes to your certifications, keep in mind that these are expensive and they cost a lot of money. So you have to find different ways to learn if you don't have the budget. And much of that is to go to YouTube and look at the free videos, or just take time out to talk to somebody else that have been through the ropes before. Because most of the senior people that actually work in cybersecurity, and I'm going to share this little secret with you, wants to talk to somebody else because they feel proud to help somebody else up through the industry because they have a story to tell you. So you go out to lunch with them and have them to tell you that story because they have a lot of knowledge to share. Outside of all the meetings that they have to go through every day, I'm pretty sure they can find 5 or 10 minutes just to sit down and talk to you. One of the other things you can do to master your skills, build yourself an in-home lab. Labs are very important because you may not have the opportunity to actually get the professional training. But what if you build a lab at home and you can simulate different environment, simulate all of these attacks? There's a lot of free tools that you can use to build your own lab. If you set up a virtual instance at your home location and you have a lab, you can actually learn a lot. I remember in my younger days, I was using one of the virtualization platforms, and I had a copy of it, Windows like, I think it was like a 208 or probably a 2009 server. And I used to log on to that server so I can learn a lot, especially about system admin work. So as you see, there is a lot of room to learn. So when you build your labs, talk to your coworkers, talk to people that you meet on Facebook, because there's some groups that you can join as well to increase your skill sets. All right. So I want to say this too. When it comes to your skill sets, you are not going to know it all, but you want to be good at something. Find that one area that you have all the passion about when it comes to cybersecurity, and focus on that area and learn. Because when you are working on a job, there's always a guru that knows something in one area, because you can't really know it all. Like, you may familiarize yourself with certain things, but you're not going to know it all. One of the other things that is most important is that when you are working on a job, you have to express interest. All right. So that means you're motivated. So that means in the meetings that you ask questions, because your goal is to become smarter, because you either transition into IT security, maybe from some other job, or you are a new beginner to the IT security market. So what you have to do is to express interest, because when you express interest, then that motivates others. And take it for granted, sometimes you may express interest and there may be others that just don't have that motivation to train you. So that's when you have to go back and look at the other 8 areas that I discussed: job choice, being proactive, and the certification and the cyber tools, shadowing someone. Okay. Now, shadowing itself kind of falls into asking questions. All right. So you can look at the in-home labs. And I really want to go back on the in-home labs, because that's very important, because that's something that you create, because you can identify ways to hack, to actually carry out some ethical hacking tactics. And speaking of hacking, I think the CEH is a really great certification to have. You know what? Let me just rephrase that. The CEH is a great certification to have, because you're going to go through that pipeline and you're going to learn about hacking, but you're going to learn a lot of different areas of cybersecurity as well. So as you see, when it comes to mastering your cybersecurity skills, there are some things that you have to follow. I will say that when you start to learn and you start to engage into the industry, you're going to find out that over time, things changes. And you may identify and state that, you know what, I'm just sick of this role. And yes, and you have a right to be that way, because role changes over time. But, the beauty of changing roles is that you can transition your skill sets over. Now, you may not transition all of those skill sets, but it's certain skill sets that you can transfer over from one role to the next. And one of the other beauties of building your skill sets is that when you transfer from one job to the next, you're going to find out that your skill set matters, because a lot of jobs are looking for people that can make change. So imagine if you work for a very large company and you were there for 4 years and you became very effective and learning about the SOC environment, or you became very effective about being a cybersecurity manager, and all the skills that you picked up, and now you transfer those skills over to another company. And maybe this is a brand new company that just started up, and maybe they're starting to build their IT security division. This is where you matter most, because you have that experience now, and you can transfer that experience over, and you can help that company grow. But then it also gives you the framework of learning how to really build cybersecurity out. So as you see here, there are skill sets that stack on top of each other. If you gain a lot of skill sets in this IT security market and you go to a brand new job, and this is a startup company, and let's say, for instance, they don't have a cybersecurity program, guess what? Now your skill sets is helping to build cybersecurity. And then if you leave that job, then the next job may just state, hey, we need somebody in here that knows how to implement and build cybersecurity. You can voice for yourself and you can talk for yourself now. So as you see, a lot of skill sets that stack on top of each other. And as always, it is just the master plan that you have in order to build your cybersecurity skills. I want you to think about how those skills are going to carry you for the future. One of the things that I would say helped me out the most when it comes to skills is that when I started to write, I never envisioned myself like trying to come up with all these different topics. So as I started to write my book, The Cybersecurity Mindset, as I progressed through the first part of the book, maybe the first 4, maybe 5 chapters, that was a bit of a struggle because I was trying to figure out, am I really saying what needs to be said? And I went back and I started to look and I said, I can't believe I wrote that. And it was, to me, it actually meant a lot because I had been writing before, but I never, thought that I could write a book. But, the thing is that my thoughts were like that because it wasn't in my plan. It wasn't in my plan to like even write a book. But, my friend of mine told me like, well, you need to write a book. And then I started to write. And after the 5 chapters, I started to realize, you know what? I got some great ideas that I need to put in this book. And, the reason I was able to write was because I had gained skill sets throughout my entire career in the cybersecurity workforce. Because I started off as a junior analyst. Then I started moving through and I did some training. Then I kind of worked on a vulnerability management platform. Then I seen some things that upper management did not like. I seen some things that lower management did not like. I seen some better ways to use your cybersecurity tools. So when you compile all of that into my skill sets and my past experience, I was able to develop my skill sets into writing, because writing itself just reflects your knowledge and what you know. Part of the entire process is to make sure that you understand how to carry out cybersecurity. But to carry out cybersecurity, one of the things that you have to do is to understand certifications, because certifications is part of your entire career. And this is what's going to carry you to the next level. So I really want you to think about that, because the next episode is going to focus on the secret tips to master IT certifications. All right. And take your notes, use them wisely. And until next time, I want you to stay cyber safe. And the Chief of Cybersecurity is out for today.
You've been listening to the Chief of Cybersecurity podcast, where you have gained relevant knowledge to enhance your cybersecurity mindset. Be sure to visit DewayneHart.com to learn more about authored publications, show notes, and discover more information concerning cybersecurity.